You know, there's a strange paradox about kindness. The more you give, the more people expect until generosity turns into obligation. And one day, you wake up realizing that you've spent years solving problems that were never yours to begin with. We think the danger is in being around bad people, but sometimes it's the good ones who quietly drain you. They don't steal your money, they steal your time, your peace, your energy. So today, let's talk about 5 kinds of requests that sound innocent on the surface, but slowly dismantle your sense of self if you say yes to them. Because protecting your boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. Every yes you give to someone is a no to yourself. Think about that for a moment. It's not poetic, it's physics. Energy doesn't create itself. When you spend your time, your attention, your emotional bandwidth on someone else's crisis, that energy has to come from somewhere. And usually, it comes from you, from your rest, your dreams, your own peace of mind. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially when I look at how many people, particularly those of us who've lived a few decades, have been trained to believe that helping others is the ultimate good, no matter the cost. And don't get me wrong, empathy is beautiful. Cooperation is how we've built everything worth building. But there's a difference between empathy and surrender. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that saying no makes you selfish, that setting a boundary means you don't care, that if someone you love is struggling, you should drop everything and fix it, even if fixing it means breaking yourself in the process. But here's the thing. In any system, whether it's a machine, a business, or a human life, when the energy source gets depleted, the whole system collapses. You can't run a battery at full output forever without recharging it, and you can't give endlessly to others without eventually running dry. When you do, you're not helping anyone anymore. You're just 2 people drowning instead of 1. So the question becomes, what are these subtle requests that start draining your life force without you even noticing? What are the seemingly reasonable things people ask for that, over time, turn you into a shadow of who you used to be? Let me walk you through them. And I promise, if you felt that exhaustion, that quiet resentment, that sense of wondering where you went, this will make sense. The first thing people will ask, and this one's insidious because it feels like love is for you to carry their responsibilities as if they were your own. You know the pattern. Someone close to you, a son, a daughter, maybe a sibling, comes to you with a problem. Not just any problem, but their problem. And they present it in such a way that suddenly it becomes your emergency. They say things like, "I don't know what to do," or "I'm really struggling," or "Can you help me?" And because you love them, because you've spent a lifetime being the one people can count on, you step in. You offer advice. You offer money. You offer your time. And what starts as a single favor quietly becomes a permanent arrangement. Before you know it, you're not just helping, you're doing it for them. You're making their phone calls. You're covering their bills. You're managing their lives while they go off and live theirs. And the strangest part? When you finally dare to suggest that maybe, just maybe, they should start handling some of this themselves, you're met with shock, with hurt feelings, with accusations of being cold or uncaring. How dare you withdraw your support? Don't you know they need you? Let me ask you something. When did their inability to manage their own life become your life sentence? Because that's what it is, isn't it? You sacrifice your rest, your comfort, your own plans, all so they can continue avoiding what they should have faced a long time ago. I think of it like this. Imagine you're walking along a path and you're carrying your own backpack. It's heavy enough, right? It's filled with your worries, your responsibilities, your needs. Then someone comes along and says, "Hey, can you carry mine too? Just for a little while." And because you're kind, you take it. But then another person shows up, and another, and before you know it, you're bent double under the weight of everyone else's baggage, while they walk freely ahead, unencumbered, expecting you to keep up. This isn't help. This is exploitation dressed up as love. And here's the cruelest part. The more you give, the more they expect. They don't see your struggle because they're too busy enjoying their freedom, and when you finally collapse from exhaustion, they won't be there to pick you up. They'll just be puzzled, maybe even annoyed that you can no longer serve them. You're not a support system for adults who refuse to support themselves. You're not a safety net for people who keep jumping off cliffs, expecting you to catch them. At some point, and that point is now, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is it really love? Or is it fear? Fear of being seen as selfish? Fear of being disliked? Fear of setting a boundary and watching them walk away? But here's the truth they don't tell you. The people who walk away when you set boundaries are the same people who were never truly there for you in the first place. They were there for what you could provide. And the moment you stop providing, the relationship ends, which tells you everything you need to know about its true nature. If someone is asking you to carry what they should be carrying themselves, if they're turning their problems into your problems, if they're making you responsible for their happiness, their finances, their choices, you have every right to say no. Not maybe, not we'll see, no. Because your life is not a rescue mission for people who won't save themselves. And often, the moment you stop solving their problems, the next request appears, this time involving something even more sensitive. Money. Money. Few things complicate relationships faster. Someone you care about approaches you. They're in trouble, they say. They need money, not a lot, just enough to get by, just to cover this bill or that emergency. And they promise, they absolutely promise, they'll pay you back. Next week, next month, as soon as things get better, so you lend it. Because you want to help, because you believe their promise, because you think, well, if I were in their position, I'd hope someone would help me. And at first, it feels good. You've solved their problem. You've been the hero. You've proven your love. But then something interesting happens. Or rather, something doesn't happen. The money doesn't come back. And when you gently bring it up, they look hurt. They remind you of their struggles. They suggest you're being insensitive. Or they promise again soon, very soon. And you believe them because you want to believe them. Months pass, maybe years. And that money you lent has vanished into a black hole. But worse than losing the money is what you've lost in the relationship. Because now there's tension, there's resentment. Every time you see them, you think about what they owe you. And they know you're thinking about it. And instead of addressing it honestly, they avoid you. Or they act as if nothing happened. Or, and this is my favorite, they ask to borrow more. Here's what's really happening. When someone borrows money with no real plan to return it, they're not borrowing, they're taking. And they're counting on your discomfort with conflict to let them get away with it. They know that bringing up money feels awkward, feels cheap, feels like you're putting dollars above relationship. So they use your own values against you, your generosity, your kindness, your reluctance to make things uncomfortable. But think about this for a second. If they truly valued the relationship, would they put it at risk by taking your money? If they truly respected you, would they make promises they have no intention of keeping? Of course not. What they're really saying is that their temporary comfort matters more than your financial security, that their wants outweigh your needs, that you exist as a bank they can withdraw from without ever making a deposit. And here's the painful truth. Lending money rarely solves the real problem. Because if someone is in financial trouble, a loan from you is just a patch. It might cover this month's crisis, but it won't fix the behavior that created the crisis in the first place. Next month, there will be another emergency, another need, another request. And if you've already lent once, they'll see you as an easy target, a reliable source who can't say no. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what if it's a real emergency? What if they genuinely need help? And I'd say this, there's a difference between helping someone in crisis and enabling someone's pattern. A real emergency is rare, maybe a medical bill that comes out of nowhere, a car breaking down when they need it for work, an unexpected loss of income through no fault of their own. And even then, even in genuine emergencies, a person of integrity will do everything in their power to repay you. They'll set up a plan. They'll make regular payments, even small ones. But if someone is coming to you regularly, if their life seems to be one emergency after another, if they always need just a little more to get by, then you're not dealing with bad luck. You're dealing with bad choices. and your money won't fix that. It will only postpone the inevitable moment when they have to face their own patterns and change them. So what do? You protect yourself. You recognize that lending money to people who won't return it isn't generosity, it's foolishness. And you've worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to watch your savings disappear into someone else's bottomless need. Your financial security is not a negotiable item. Your peace of mind is not for sale. And anyone who asks you to risk either is not thinking about your well-being, they are thinking only of themselves. If someone truly needs help, there are other ways to provide it. You can offer advice, you can help them create a budget, you can point them toward resources, toward systems that exist specifically to help people in genuine need. But handing over money, especially significant amounts, especially without a clear agreement about repayment, is asking for trouble. And at this stage of your life, trouble is the last thing you need. But not every request comes in dollars. Some come disguised as loyalty. This brings me to the third thing people will ask of you, and it's particularly insidious because it wraps itself in the language of family, of friendship, of being there for the people you love. They'll ask you to choose sides in conflicts that have absolutely nothing to do with you. You know the scenario. Someone you love is fighting with someone else you love. Maybe it's your children arguing with each other over something that happened years ago. Maybe it's a sibling feud that's been simmering for decades. Maybe it's extended family drama, cousins, in-laws, old friends who've turned bitter. And suddenly, you're pulled into the middle of it. They come to you, each side, each person, presenting their case, explaining why they're right and the other is wrong, showing you evidence, recounting every slight, every insult, every moment of betrayal. And then comes the question, the trap. Whose side are you on? What a terrible position to be in, because the moment you choose, you lose. If you side with one person, you alienate the other. If you try to stay neutral, both sides accuse you of not caring. And if you attempt to mediate, to bring peace, you often end up blamed by everyone when the peace doesn't hold. Let me tell you what's really happening here. These people aren't asking for your wisdom or your help. They're asking you to validate their position. They want you to confirm that they're the victim, that they're justified, that the other person is entirely at fault. And by pulling you in, they're trying to build an army. They're trying to gather supporters. They're trying to win, not through being right, but through having more people on their side. But think about this carefully. What do you actually gain by getting involved? Even if you successfully mediate and bring temporary peace, what have you really accomplished? Because people who are truly ready to resolve their conflicts will resolve them with or without you. And people who aren't ready will simply fight again, probably over something just as trivial, and once again expect you to drop everything and referee. Meanwhile, what do you lose? Your peace, your neutrality, your ability to love both parties without reservation. Because once you've taken a side, once you've said this one is right and that one is wrong, you've created a division that may never fully heal. Every future interaction will be colored by that choice. Every holiday gathering will carry tension. Every phone call will require careful navigation. And for what? To solve a problem that isn't yours. To referee a fight between grown adults who should be capable of handling their own disagreements. That's not wisdom. That's volunteering for unnecessary suffering. There's an old saying, when two people are fighting, the third person who gets involved gets hit by both. And it's absolutely true. Because no matter how carefully you try to be fair, no matter how much you try to see both sides, at some point each person will feel you didn't support them enough. Each will remember not what you did for them, but what you didn't do, and your reward for trying to help will be resentment from all directions. So what's the answer? It's actually quite simple. Don't get involved. When someone comes to you with their grievances, you listen. You acknowledge their feelings. But you do not take sides. You do not become their champion. You do not carry messages back and forth between warring parties like some kind of emotional postal service. You say, with kindness but with absolute firmness, this is between you and them. I love you both. I'm not taking sides. Work it out yourselves. Will they like this answer? Probably not. They may push back. They may try to guilt you. They may suggest that if you really love them, you'd support them, but hold your ground. Because what you're really doing is respecting everyone involved. You're respecting their ability to solve their own problems. You're respecting the relationship by not poisoning it with resentment. And most importantly, you're respecting yourself by refusing to be used as a weapon in someone else's war. Your job at this stage of life is not to fix every broken relationship in your family. Your job is to maintain your own peace, to love people without becoming entangled in their drama, to be available without being involved. And that requires boundaries, clear, firm, loving boundaries that say, I care about you, but I won't be pulled into this. And yet, even when you stay out of conflict, some people will ask for something even more invasive, your identity itself. The fourth thing people will ask is for you to change who you are to make them comfortable. Now we're getting to something really interesting, because this request comes in many forms. Sometimes it's direct, sometimes it's subtle, but the message is always the same. You are too much, or not enough, or wrong, or outdated, or embarrassing. And they, in their infinite wisdom, know how you should be instead. Maybe it's your clothing. They say you dress too old-fashioned, or too young, or too bright, or too plain. Maybe it's your opinions. They want you to stop talking about certain things, stop holding certain views, stop being so set in your ways. Maybe it's your hobbies. They think what you enjoy is silly or boring or beneath you. Or maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe they want you to change your entire lifestyle, move somewhere else, live differently, be different. And here's what makes this particularly painful. These requests usually come from people who claim to love you. They're not strangers criticizing you from a distance. They're family, close friends, people whose opinions you value, and they frame their demands as concern. They say they're worried about you. They say they just want what's best. They say, if you'd only change this one thing, everything would be better. But let me ask you something. Better for whom? Because when someone asks you to change something fundamental about yourself, they're not thinking about your happiness. They're thinking about theirs. They're uncomfortable with who you are. They're embarrassed by you. Or they have some image in their mind of who you should be, and you're not matching it. And rather than accepting you as you are, they want to reshape you into something more convenient for them. Think about what they're really asking. They're asking you to pretend, to put on a mask, to hide the parts of yourself that make you unique. They're asking you to trade your authenticity for their approval. And that's not a fair trade. That's not even close to a fair trade. Because who are you without your quirks, without your preferences, without the things that light you up and make you who you are? Here's what's fascinating to me. The people who ask you to change are often the ones who haven't done much changing themselves. They haven't examined their own lives. They haven't questioned their own assumptions. They simply follow the crowd, do what's expected, and then demand that you do the same. And when you resist, when you insist on being yourself, they become offended. But you've lived long enough to know something they apparently haven't learned yet, that the opinions of others are just that, opinions, not facts, not laws, not requirements, just thoughts in someone else's head about how they think you should live your life, and you are under no obligation